Hello reef friends, welcome back to Craft Aquatic. I'm Matt G. In this video I'll be walking you through the process of building a 110-gallon saltwater mixing station and my reasons for finally deciding to add it. I'll show you all the parts and tools I used and take you step by step through my build in a short detailed time lapse. One of the main reasons for installing the mix station was to implement an auto water change system on this 120-gallon mixed reef you're looking at now. So I'll be showing you how I installed that as well. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Craft Aquatic. I promise you'll be glad you did. Here we go. Here we are back in front of the 120-gallon mixed reef in our home. You can check out videos in the description if you'd like to see more about it. The blue Rubbermaid container that sits to the lower left of the tank is what we have used to perform water changes for the past 3 years. Personally, I have nothing against manual water changes. I've even put a few tips on how to perform them more efficiently in recent videos. I believe less frequent manual water changes have their place even after you have implemented some sort of auto water change system. I think the argument for me is anything that can be done to encourage stable water chemistry is a good idea, and auto water changes have been proven to do that. Stability is a great reason alone, but there is a ton of SBS in this tank, and I wanted to be able to leave for 2 weeks, a month on end, and know that the system was going to stay stable, so that is definitely another reason. This is the mix station that I drew up based on what many others have done before, with a few specific changes that I will get into later. Here's the stand for the saltwater bins. It's easy to find stands that hobbyists are getting rid of that they built, but you might have to rebuild them to make them a little safer, such as the case with those. These are the saltwater mixing bins that I found. They were the right shape and size for me. They are originally from Tractor Supply, but I found these locally as well for $100 a piece. I believe they retail for $200 typically. I can put a link to them in the description, and I cleaned them up really well with some bleach water and fresh water. I'm going to be performing the build outside, but I had to come down and grab this tape measure. All the other tools are up top, and put on my dingiest shoes here just to make sure I'm not ruining any of my clothes. So we'll head up to where I have everything already set up with the time-lapse camera ready to go. I've been planning this build, looking for parts, trying to source materials for a long time. The actual build took place about 2 months ago when it was a little warmer out. It was just a nice even day, it wasn't going to rain. And I wanted to make sure that was building outside because of the chemicals being used. You don't want that drifting into your interior environment. Here's some of the PVC. This is a nice violet color, and I use all Schedule 80 plumbing and fittings for all the bulkheads and everything that fits into the tank itself. It took a while to figure out what size bulkhead, what size threads those were, but I finally sussed it out, and that's why I do map everything out ahead of time, because you can guarantee when you're doing plumbing that you're going to head back to the store a few times. And if you're ordering stuff online like I did for Bulk Reef Supply, then you're going to be waiting for supplies, and that's just going to put off the project even longer. If you can use Schedule 80 True Union ball valves, they won't seize up and they'll make disassembly so much easier. These are the heart of the system, and if they seize up or break, it costs you a lot of time cleaning up the mess and a lot of money replacing them. Here's the binding agent. There's a prepping agent and the actual glue, the PVC glue itself. Really important to wear gloves. I had this mag drive kicking around already, so I just decided to base the plumbing on it to save a little bit of money, and it's like 750 gallons per hour, so that's plenty for me. If I need to add another pump in the future, I can do that. These lids are great on the Tractor Supply bins. They actually vent so the water will flow even with the tops placed onto the bins themselves. Other than that, I weighed down the tarp. I have some pliers here, which I'll need, the pipe cutters. I used to saw everything, but man, having a pair of those PVC cutters is invaluable. And make sure you have a nice gas mask as well, because you do not want to breathe in the chemicals you'll be using. So I am kind of old school. I do like to map everything out with paper and pencil. That way I can erase things, cross them out, check things off, add numbers. And I do number every single piece of PVC fitting so that I know exactly what I need. And I look over this twice, and I actually redraw the whole thing just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I did miss one thing here. It was the piece that screws into the actual mag drive pump itself. So I had to go and purchase that locally, but everything else came just as I needed it. So let's get the intervalometer going and start this time lapse. Plumbing is not my favorite thing in the world, but I've done quite a bit of it at this point, so I am getting more used to it. This is probably like the 10th major system that I've done, including some home plumbing. I'm not going to talk about each individual thing I'm doing as far as like the process of building, because I've taken steps to make sure that everything is included. If I miss something or I heard the camera go off at a wrong point in time, you can slow this time lapse down and actually copy the process if that's helpful to you. But I will say that just make sure that the space between your bins is enough that you can access those unions and all of the ball valves, that they can fully engage, and measure 3-4 times before you install anything, especially into the bins themselves, because that is not redoable. Plumbing is to a certain extent, but it's pretty hard to do. On the left is the saltwater bin, on the right the fresh. The valves can be arranged to either fill fresh to salt or mix salt in the left bin from bottom to top. I am absolutely a nerd when it comes to the mechanics of my aquarium looking as beautiful as possible. But the best thing about plumbing is that you might spend a little more for the Schedule 80 and all the good fittings and valves, but they are going to be safer, work better, and overall be more dependable. So here we go, introducing Mr. Salty, as my son and I have come to call the system, and everything came out pretty well. I did run a test with fresh water. I had towels ready to go, and I did discover that there was a little bit of a leak in the old mag drive pump. I ordered a seal, and of course they sent that right away, and everything's working great now. All the unions are good. The plumbing is actually 3/4 inch. I didn't mention that before, but I felt like that was a good size for my application. Inside this bin, there's another L-shaped PVC pipe facing toward the bottom and just about an inch off the bottom. And you see here, I have these valves that allow me to fill up some fresh water or salt water on either side of the mixing station on demand, which has been very nice and is one of those modifications that I mentioned earlier. There is just enough space above to hang a 5-gallon bucket, and right here you can see the outlet for the auto water change system. I did have to drill another small hole into the saltwater bin to install that. This is where all the 1/4 inch Murloc tubing converges. Blue for auto water change, black for old water, and white is for fresh RODI up to the ATO. Once a month I flip a valve on the RODI unit, fill up the freshwater bin, which has a float valve which will turn off the RODI when it's done. As a precaution, the RODI is on a timer and has pressure-sensitive shutoff valves for both the booster pump and the RODI itself. So that's about it for the mixing station. Let's head upstairs here to show you the install for the auto water change. And it did make quite a mess, pulling cables out, reaching behind, fishing everything through, getting the tubing up from the basement, doubling up, splitting out, all the things you need to do. But basically, it's all coming up to these bulk reef supply 60 milliliter per minute dosers. I did clean up the power center while I was working in here. It was getting a little messy, but it gave me an excuse to do so. These units have worked pretty well. They do dose very evenly, so I'm pulling water and putting water back into the tank pretty evenly, but there is a little bit of head difference, being that the saltwater mixing station is about 8 feet below the fill pump. I knew right away that there would be a difference. It's not like these pumps are super precise. There are some available now that you can program in to a precise dose, but even those have some issues. I'm only taking out and putting in about 1 gallon of water a day. And since it's pulling more than it's putting in, the auto top-off system takes care of the difference. With that said, I want to err on the side of safety, which is why I'm installing this auto top-off switch from autotopoff.com on the input peristaltic pump, just in case it does overfill or the other pump gets clogged. It comes with this great little hanger. I love this company. I actually use the same auto top-off switch for my ATO. They are really affordable, and they come with everything you need to install. They're basically well-designed mechanical switches that are very unlikely to fail on you. want to give you a sense of how loud these pumps are in relation to the aquarium, so here you go. Not too bad. The aquarium is actually pretty quiet itself. So you do hear them on enough to know that the tank is dosing, which is nice for me because I can come over and check once in a while to make sure everything is going as it should be. So that about covers it. I'm sure I'll think of a few things to add to future videos and sort of how everything is working out, the positives and negatives of having the system installed in my tank versus performing the bi-weekly water changes. So far, I am noticing elevated color and overall healthy coral in the tank. It is nice to not have to change the water every 2 weeks. It does save me time, and I'm noticing that time already that I'm saving to do other things. But as you can see, the tank is happy, and that's the most important thing. It'll be nice when everything gets back to normal-ish and we can travel again, and I can trust that my tank is being well cared for even while I'm not there. Looking forward to that. Thank you for sticking around to the end. Leave a comment below if you like. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to Craft Aquatic. We have dozens more helpful, informative, and entertaining videos on the topic of reef keeping, so definitely check those out, and I'll see you next time.